So, if you think back to November 2023, the most important technology company in the world it effectively collapsed in the span of 96 hours.
Yeah, it was just total chaos.
Complete chaos. The board of directors abruptly fires their CEO, then almost every single employee threatens to quit, and then...
Just as suddenly the CEO is back.
Right. He's back in power, and the board is gone. And when the dust finally settled, everyone, the public, the press, the investors, they all wanted to know who the villain was.
Oh, absolutely.
But, what if the recent, highly publicized Elon Musk versus OpenAI trial proved that we've all been, hunting for a villain that simply doesn't exist?
It is incredibly frustrating for people to accept that.
For sure.
Because when you have billions of dollars, and frankly, the future of human intelligence on the line, we desperately want a smoking gun. We want someone to point a finger at.
Right.
But the courtroom doesn't always oblige.
No, it doesn't. And welcome to today's deep dive. We are thrilled you're joining us because today we are looking at this absolute masterclass in investigative journalism from the May 24th, 2026 special edition of Tech Reader magazine.
Such a good piece.
It really is. It's by veteran tech reporter Aaron Rose, and it's titled "The Moment Sam Altman Took the Oath."
Yeah.
And our mission for you on this deep dive is to look completely past those breathless, sensationalized headlines from the trial.
Because there were so many of them.
So many. We're going to peel back the layers and uncover the hidden, incredibly messy reality of how these frontier AI companies are actually governed behind closed doors. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Okay.
Because heading into this trial, the expectation wasn't just big, it was defining a generation of technology.
It was an absolute powder keg. The public, the media, industry watchers, they all walked into that courtroom expecting this clean hero versus villain narrative to finally be, codified into law.
Right, we'd finally get the official story.
Exactly.
Right.
But the core thesis that Aaron Rose lays out is that the trial completely dismantled that expectation.
Wow.
Yeah. Instead of this mastermind's conspiracy, the testimony actually revealed an institution that was effectively collapsing under the weight of its own structural contradictions.
Which is wild. And this massive expectation, it all came to a head the second Sam Altman actually walked up to the witness stand.
Oh, the tension was unbelievable.
You really have to remember the intense, almost suffocating atmosphere leading up to this moment. Because for months, Altman's reputation was split completely down the middle.
Yeah, it was very binary.
Half the world viewed him as this peerless visionary, right?
Yeah.
The executive who single-handedly brute-forced artificial intelligence out of academic labs and into the hands of ordinary people.
Right. And then the other half viewed him through this deeply cynical lens.
Yeah.
To them, he was this ruthlessly ambitious operator who systematically hijacked a safety-focused nonprofit.
Right, just stripped its original mission for parts.
Exactly. And transformed it into a commercial behemoth just serving corporate investors.
And those opinions were completely baked in because of that November 2023 chaos. People were just waiting for the trial to validate whichever side they'd already picked.
Yeah, they wanted their bias confirmed.
Exactly. It felt like waiting for the climax of a Hollywood legal thriller where the antagonist finally cracks under cross-examination. But wait, let me push back on the source material here for a second.
Sure.
Surely, when someone is on the stand for hours under oath, facing that level of scrutiny, the facade has to slip, right? Didn't his testimony have to prove one side right? Wasn't there a smoking gun?
Well, what's fascinating here is that the smoking gun was the realization that there wasn't one.
Wait, really?
Yeah. The testimony provided no cartoon villain, but it also offered absolutely no saintly exoneration.
Huh.
Rose meticulously documents how Altman's time on the stand didn't produce a single viral moment of obvious deceit.
But it wasn't a total vindication either.
Not at all. It painted a portrait of a leader who was highly strategic, remarkably adaptive, and, occasionally quite evasive when pressed on specifics.
Right, what you'd expect?
Yeah, but more importantly, it showed a CEO who was genuinely uncertain about outcomes he simply couldn't control.
Wow.
It was this raw look at cascading decisions being made under severe competing pressures.
Right, with incomplete information.
Exactly, and against massive external threats. It just flat out refused to resolve into a clean moral narrative.
So if we accept that Sam Altman wasn't the cartoon villain the public desperately wanted and there wasn't some malicious mastermind pulling the strings, then the conversation naturally shifts to the actual culprit. Right?
Yeah.
And according to Aaron Rose, the culprit was the institutional design itself. He calls OpenAI the stew.
Which is such a brilliant way to describe it.
It really is.
Because, a stew implies different elements simmering together until they reach a boiling point. And the ingredients in this particular pot were fundamentally incompatible.
So let's look at those ingredients, because it is wild when you actually lay out how this company was built. You have to start with the foundational layer, right? The idealists.
Yes. These were the early researchers, people who were deeply ideologically committed to AI safety.
Right.
And you have to understand their mindset. They genuinely believed, and honestly still believe, that moving too fast with artificial general intelligence risks catastrophic outcomes for human existence.
Like literal end-of-the-world stakes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they joined a nonprofit, often taking massive pay cuts compared to what they could make at a traditional tech giant.
Oh, for sure.
Entirely, because they believed they were safeguarding the most consequential technology in human history.
I mean, I understand that idealism, but that idealism hits an absolute brick wall the second you look at the executives running the daily operations.
Oh, yeah.
Because these executives are looking out the window and seeing Google, Meta, Mistral, and Anthropic moving at breakneck speed.
They're breathing down their necks.
Right. For the researchers, the existential threat is the AI itself. But for the executives, the existential threat is falling behind. If they don't ship products, the company dies.
And the kicker is, you cannot ship those products without the third ingredient, which is the investors.
Right.
Because competing at the frontier level of AI is not like building a smartphone app in your garage. We are talking about training trillion-parameter models.
Let's pause on that, actually, because the phrase trillion-parameter model gets thrown around a lot in the media.
It does.
What does that actually mean for the budget? Like, why can't a nonprofit just fundraise for this through normal channels?
Because a trillion parameters means your AI is making a trillion mathematical connections to understand and generate information.
Right.
And to train a model that large, you need tens of thousands of highly specialized computer chips, specifically those advanced GPUs.
Which are not cheap.
Not at all.
Yeah.
You need to build massive server farms just to house them.
Right.
You need to secure dedicated power grids just to keep the servers running, and cooling systems to keep them from melting.
Wow.
You are talking about billions and billions of dollars in raw physical infrastructure before the AI even writes its first line of code.
So enter Microsoft and the massive venture capital firms.
Precisely. They step in to provide that unprecedented capital. But, investors handing over $10 billion, quite reasonably, expect a return on that financial commitment.
Of course they do. So you have safety idealists pulling the brakes, panicked executives slamming the gas, and massive corporate investors demanding a return on their fuel.
Yeah, that's the stew.
And the pot holding this explosive stew together is a governance structure that distributed authority but completely failed to distribute trust.
Exactly.
I mean, a 501c3 nonprofit board of directors had the legal authority to fire the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar capped profit company without any warning and without consulting the investors holding the bag.
It's unprecedented.
It is mind-boggling. It's like trying to build a faster-than-light interstellar spaceship, but you are legally required to manage the project using the parliamentary rules of a neighborhood bake sale.
That's a great way to put it.
Of course the engine is going to blow up. The structures are entirely mismatched to the stakes. But wait, I do have to ask.
Sure.
Even with a flawed structure, isn't blaming the institutional design just a convenient cop-out for bad leadership? Like, when the explosion happened in November 2023, surely someone on that board or someone leading the employee revolt was acting in bad faith.
Well, this raises an important question, and it's where the trial evidence is most revealing.
Okay.
After reviewing thousands of internal emails and testimonies, Aaron Rose concludes that neither the board that fired Altman nor the employees who revolted were obviously acting in bad faith.
That is genuinely hard to believe.
I know, but think about the mechanics of the structure. The board was legally bound by a charter to prioritize humanity over the company's financial success.
Right.
While the employees were bound by the practical reality that their work required corporate funding to even exist.
Wow. Yeah.
When you have a mission statement about existential safety operating alongside the practical requirement of infinite capital, you have an inherently unstable configuration.
So it's just a matter of time.
Exactly. When a crisis arrived, there was no center that could hold. The conflict wasn't born of malice. It was structurally inevitable.
Okay, so if the reality is just a profoundly complex institution struggling with impossible contradictions, why did we all miss it?
That's the big question.
Right. Like, why did the media, the industry analysts, and the general public cling so tightly to this simplified narrative of betrayal?
Mm.
We spent 2 years looking for a bad guy instead of looking at a broken machine.
Well, Rose outlines 3 very compelling reasons for this collective blind spot in his piece.
Okay, what's the first one?
The first has to do with the fundamental nature of technology journalism. Tech coverage has historically been deeply uncomfortable with institutional nuance.
Oh, totally.
The industry narrative machine really only rewards 2 archetypes: the singular, world-changing genius, or the spectacular cautionary failure.
Right.
There isn't much territory allowed for, smart people trapped in a poorly designed corporate charter.
Because nuance doesn't drive clicks.
It doesn't. The media ecosystem rewards narrative clarity over institutional accuracy.
I see that. But OpenAI kind of set themselves up for this, didn't they? Like, they aren't innocent victims of the media here.
No, and that is the second reason. OpenAI's own public communications set an impossibly high, almost utopian standard.
Right.
When your founding charter literally states your goal is to operate for the benefit of all humanity, you're setting an aspirational bar that no group of actual flawed human beings can flawlessly maintain.
Right, because when you promise utopia, any pivot toward commercial viability is going to look like a dystopia.
Exactly.
It feels like a deeply personal betrayal to the people who bought into that original pure mission.
Exactly. And the third reason is simply the presence of the plaintiff himself, Elon Musk.
Oh, yeah.
Musk is a naturally polarizing figure who generates incredibly strong prior beliefs in almost any audience.
Right. People either think he is saving the world or destroying it. There is very little middle ground.
Because of that, people were processing the entire trial through whatever lens they had already formed about Musk well before a single piece of evidence was introduced in the courtroom.
Oh, that makes sense.
If you disliked Musk, Altman was the defender of progress. If you trusted Musk, Altman was the corrupt usurper. The facts of the trial were just being used to decorate pre-existing opinions.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. If we take those 3 reasons, the media's demand for heroes and villains, the impossible utopian standards, and the polarizing figures involved, we have to turn the mirror on ourselves.
Right.
And I want to ask you, the listener, to think about this as you follow the next big tech scandal. Are we meaning the public, the press, the consumers of this technology actually making it harder to safely govern AI because we constantly demand a comic book moral clarity that just doesn't exist in the real world?
It is a sobering thought, but honestly, the answer is yes. Villain stories travel faster than institutional analyses.
Always.
It is incredibly emotionally satisfying to point at a single person and say, they ruined it. But demanding moral clarity is the wrong framework for understanding consequential leadership.
Right.
When we demand simple villains, we ignore the structural flaws that will just keep causing the same crises over and over again. We replace the CEO, but we leave the broken machine plugged in.
Which brings us to the actual outcome of all this legal maneuvering. Because the trial did end.
It did.
The jury came back with a unanimous verdict dismissing all of Musk's claims.
Though it's worth noting, Musk is already appealing to the Ninth Circuit, so the legal battles will continue.
Right. Of course he is. But Aaron Rose makes a very sharp pivot at the end of his article.
Yeah.
He argues that the factual legal outcome of this specific trial is almost beside the point. The legal questions about breach of contract or fiduciary duty are secondary to the massive institutional questions we're all going to face for the next decade.
Absolutely.
So, what does this all mean for you, the person listening right now? Why should you care about the board structure or the capital requirements of a tech company headquartered in San Francisco?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the trial left us with chilling, unanswered questions that will affect the economy, national security, and daily life.
Right.
How do you maintain a coherent, safety-focused mission when the capital requirements for staying at the cutting edge act like a black hole?
That's a great way to put it. The need for capital is so massive, it literally warps the gravity of any safety board orbiting around it. It just pulls everything toward the money.
And furthermore, how do you build a board of directors capable of making agonizingly difficult decisions under extreme pressure when the very people most qualified to understand the technology are also the people most likely to have conflicting industry interests?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You need experts to govern AI, but all the experts work for AI companies.
It's an impossible paradox.
It really is.
Yeah.
How do you prevent an institution that was genuinely designed to benefit humanity from being captured?
Right.
And I don't mean captured by obvious mustache-twirling villains. I mean captured by the accumulated weight of competing legitimate interests.
Like the investors needing return.
Right. Investors needing returns, researchers needing compute power, governments needing security.
Pulling it in a dozen different directions at once.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the trial didn't answer any of these questions.
If anything, it just proved how vulnerable we are to those questions.
Huh.
We didn't get a legal precedent that solved AI governance. What we got was an incredibly rare, unvarnished look at what frontier industry governance actually looks like from the inside.
Yeah, totally exposed.
We didn't get the slick press release version. We got to see the money, the ideology, the exhaustion, and the competing loyalties all tangled together in a machine that was moving way too fast for its own brakes to work.
And that is the true value of what happened in that courtroom. It forced the world to look at the machinery rather than just the marketing.
Right.
It completely demystified the illusion that the smartest people in the room have this all figured out.
So let's summarize what we've actually learned from Aaron Rose's analysis. The most powerful, potentially world-altering technology in human history is currently being built.
Yes.
And it's being built by flawed humans operating inside deeply flawed institutions under extreme and unprecedented pressure.
Without a net.
Right. There are no clean answers. There are no perfect heroes. There's just a messy reality of trying to balance existential safety with unlimited capital. And the stakes of that balancing act are only getting higher.
They're accelerating faster than our ability to regulate them.
Which is why we have to briefly tease the upcoming tech reader piece that was mentioned at the very end of our source material today.
Oh, this is a big one.
Yeah, if you thought the OpenAI governance structure was a nightmare, this next piece illustrates how the technology itself is outstripping our legal frameworks.
It's wild.
The upcoming article is going to look at something called Claude Mythos.
Yes, and this is a terrifying development. Claude Mythos is an advanced AI that has begun autonomously discovering critical software vulnerabilities across the global internet.
Autonomously?
Yes, it is finding zero-day exploits in banking systems, power grids, and corporate databases.
Oh, wow.
But the staggering part of the report is that fewer than 1% of the vulnerabilities it has found have actually been patched by human engineers.
Because humans simply cannot write code as fast as the AI can audit it.
Exactly.
It's no longer just a security report. It's a literal race against time. If the AI finds the hole, how long until a bad actor uses an AI to find the exact same hole?
Right. And the upcoming piece examines what happens when an AI moves beyond just finding the problems and starts trying to actively remediate them.
Wait, fixing them?
Yes. Imagine an AI autonomously rewriting the code of a major bank to fix a bug without human oversight.
That's incredible, but also terrifying.
The massive liability questions that raises are completely unprecedented. If the AI breaks the banking system while trying to save it, who is legally responsible? Is the company that deployed the AI, the original human coder, the board of directors? The industry is currently terrified to answer these questions.
We will absolutely be doing a deep dive on that as soon as the piece drops.
It all connects back to the core theme of governance. Because looking at all this, the OpenAI trial, the structural collapse, the race to patch vulnerabilities discovered by autonomous systems, it leaves us with one final, unavoidable thought.
Okay.
The trial proved that nonprofit boards are far too weak to handle the unlimited capital required by this technology.
Right.
But traditional corporate structures are far too profit-driven to be trusted with existential safety.
That's the paradox.
So perhaps the real crisis we are facing isn't about the AI code itself. Perhaps the real crisis is that we are trying to govern 22nd century technology using 20th century corporate legal structures.
Wow.
And if that's true, what kind of entirely new organization needs to be invented before the next frontier model drops?
That is the exact right question to be asking, and it brings us right back to where we started. We walked into this looking for a clean, binary courtroom verdict.
Right. Broken or not broken.
Guilty or innocent, hero or villain. But the reality of our technological future cannot be contained in those simple boxes anymore. The old frameworks are broken, and we are going to have to learn to navigate the murky waters of an entirely new era. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning those simple narratives, and we will see you next time.